show. This is your host, Sham. This is 0xfiles. The truth is always out there. We've talked about a whole bunch of stuff yesterday. We did say that the market bleeding out, that was it. You know, I feel that it was over. And you can see the market is green right now. Also, I want to talk about Solana. Solana hit our first target, which is $200, currently sitting at $202. The pumpermentals is about to start, right? This thing at 230 is just around the corner. Believe me, it won't take much force to get to there. When it gets there, we're looking at some serious new all-time highs. I'm expecting at least $300, $400, $500, $600. Hey, why not? Even $1,000, right? So let's see what happens. BTC is still holding at 68,800 right now. Just to let you know for the reference, the time now is 10:43 p.m. It's the 17th of March 2024. For me, it's a Sunday. I don't know what it is in your country, but that's what it is, right? So if you're new to the channel, guys, smash that like button, hit that subscribe, join the family. There's a Discord link below as well. There's a link, you can see a Discord in there as well. So all my socials are there. Join. Let's continue with this conversation. So market is doing fantastic. Currently, I'm looking at the market. I mean, I mentioned it yesterday as well on yesterday's live stream. The market is showing right now it's showing at $2.52 trillion. The total market cap, I'm happy with that. BTC, as I said, it's above 68,000. It's currently 68,700 or 68,800, whatever you want to say. Ethereum sitting at 3,600. Brilliant. I'm not complaining, right? Solana 202, fantastic. Everything else is recovered as well. Remember what I said, guys, when BTC moves a little bit, everything else moves a lot more, right? So that's what's happening right now. I'm super thrilled about this, but that's not all I want to talk about today. So I'm not going to make this live stream too long unless other people come in and they ask me a bunch of questions and whatnot. Then yeah, happy days, right? We'll talk about it. But if not, then this whole live stream was not intended to be live and everyone come along and join. No, it's actually intended because I wanted to talk about something. And I'm hoping this video stays, right? Because a lot of the time YouTube doesn't like this kind of stuff, right? Earlier on today, one of our brothers in the Discord community asked a question about shadow governments, right? And I said to him, I said, look, this is one of those, you can't just pre-record and send it. So I'm going to do it on a live. So at least that way, most people who see it or watch it, whatever, is there, right? Sabine Constantine Langu. Hey, man, good evening from Edinburgh. Hey, man, awesome, my brother. Nice to see you from Edinburgh. I'm from London. Nice to meet you. So let's talk about this, right? So, you know, it's one of those weird ones. Like, I want to talk about it. Obviously, the market's market, right? And there's more to it. And this is kind of all related, right? When we start talking about like shadow governments or these shadow people or whatever, I'm not going to go into shadow people. That's a whole different story. But let's talk about this whole conspiracy about the shadow governments running the governments and the banks, right? So there are people out there who are operating, like pulling the strings, and they're the puppet masters, right? And I have a view, I have a theory, and someone asked me to talk about my theory. I'm going to drop that, right? RA says, hope you're doing well. My brother, I am doing absolutely fine. Spreading positivity and love to everyone. Thank you, my brother. That's the whole key here. We're always going to stay positive. Doesn't matter what we see, doesn't matter what kind of a theory we have. We always look for that positive energy and we move forward with that, because that's how we bring the positive results to ourselves, right? Every day we wake up, we start the day with a positive thought, and we go out and we make things happen, and ultimately the universe will provide to us, right? That's the key here. You probably noticed, a lot of you guys who watched me yesterday on the live stream, I was very positive. The market doesn't bother me. The blood doesn't bother me, right? If you can bleed the market down as much as you want, I know I have a plan and I'm going to stick to my plan, and ultimately the plan's going to deliver to me, right? Because I'm being positive about it. Now, I'm just one man. Imagine what 100 people, what 1,000 people, what 1,000,000 people together could do. We can change this whole universe, guys. That's what we can do. Right, so I want to talk about the shadow governments and how they kind of operate and what I think, right? What my kind of whole theory is, right? So in order for us to understand this, right? So yes, when I see blood in the market, it's time to buy and hodl. Absolutely, my brother. That's when we FOMO. Whenever we see blood in the market, we FOMO, right? We FOMO. That's what we do. We are going to have fear of missing out when it's bloody. That's the key, right? So let's get into this, right? Carry on with your comments. Drop me anything there, and I'll cut in and I'll talk about it, right? So this theory I have is quite important because it is quite connected to crypto, banking, finance, money, you name it, the whole globe, right? The whole globe, right? But there are areas that maybe they don't touch, areas maybe they do touch, right? So this global shadow government. Let's call it a global shadow government. Some people have called it the New World Order, called it the One World Order, called it the Illuminatis, called it, doesn't matter how many names they give. In fact, they're probably parts of this entire thing, and they're probably not even the shadow government, believe it or not, right? They probably have somebody else on top. And these shadow governments that we talk about, they've been around for hundreds of years, if not longer. But it's not the same people, right? They pass it down. So they pass the torch down to many, many people over, you know, decades and centuries and probably even eons, right? So it's a whole thing you have to understand. It's like when someone figures out a method, you know, you get a recipe, right? And that recipe works. Well, you stick to that recipe. So what's happened is in the past, and this is hundreds of years ago, right? As I said, it maybe even thousands of years ago, right? What's happened is there was a group of people, and that's my belief, a group of people who realized that they can start controlling narratives, or they can start controlling people and people's emotions, right? So to keep interrupting. No, carry on, you carry on. So we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to drop this as well. So I'll take a little break from my theories and then we'll continue, right? So there are groups of people who have come along and, you know, figured out how to they've mastered how to control the narrative. Now, what that means is these guys, they don't go and fight wars. They don't go and take over countries. They don't go and run governments. They don't do none of that. They realize they don't have to do any of that. All they have to do is just sit back and relax and, you know, make a few minor adjustments, which will have a ripple effect over time, right? So this is what it is. So they'll plan 100 years, like, you know, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they'll plan something like, just for the example, say 100 years in the past, and they'll want to see it come to fruition 100 years later. So it's a ripple effect. Like one little drop or one little stone in the river or whatever, and that ripple is then connected and it goes to where it needs to go, right? It hits the shores, right? By the time it hits, it's a bigger ripple effect. So that's what they realized. You only have to change something very small, right? And you can have things going. So with that in mind, like the way I've looked at it, it was like, there are people out there who have figured out that, you know, maybe, and this is why I say thousands of years, they could use religion as a narrative to control the masses. And they've done that. And it's something that probably many, many people have done across many, many things. And I'm not saying anything about religion. Look, I'm a religious guy. I might not be 100% practicing, but I'm a very religious guy, right? I believe in the core beliefs of all religion, which is, you know, be honest, be truthful, don't hurt anybody, don't do anything to anyone, right? I'm not revengeful, I'm not vengeful, I don't hold grudges. All of those kind of good things that people have to do is like, let go, guys, let go. So that's the whole thing. I have all these positive energies that maybe, you know, I feel that I'm religious enough to, you know, for doing all of these things. And I practice this in life. I'm not just practicing it for the religion. I practice this in everyday life, right? What's the harm in being nice? You know, what's the harm in being conscious about if you're going to hurt someone or if you're going to be unthoughtful, all of those kind of things. There's no harm, right? So I'm always thinking about those kind of things. I'm always trying to make a difference. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to give you anything, but at the same time, I'm not going to take anything off you. I don't want to harm you, right? I want to give you positive energy, but I don't want to take anything off you. And if you have some negative energy, let me try and convert that for you into positive energy. Have a little laugh, whatever makes your day, right? So that's the kind of stuff I do. So these guys, like, you know, and I believe they've figured these things out, in my opinion, right? And I'm not going to go into a long thing because I want to keep it as short as possible, right? So this is why I'm kind of like blitzing through this, right? I'm blitzing through this, right? Right? So they figured out that they have to only change a little thing over time. And these are people, a lot of people think they're people with massive wealth. They're not people with wealth. They don't need wealth. They don't need money. They've created money. They don't need money, right? These are people usually what you'll find in sitting in a room. They don't necessarily need money, but they have connections. It's not what you do, all right, or how much money you have. It's who you know or what influences you can have over them, right? So whispers, think about the devil whispering in your ears, right? So they are literally the let's just say the real life embodiment of the devil, right? If we go into a religious context, right? And I'm not going to go religious on you guys, right? Believe me, I'm not going to go religious on you. But I'm just saying, people have used these narratives, right? So over time, things have changed, and they're like, whenever the narrative changes, they're like, okay, we need to go into the most dominant one and control that, right? So that's happened. And of course, over time, then they realize, okay, religion doesn't work anymore. Let's move into politics, right? So then all of a sudden we have these politics coming in. So now people are trying to do it politically, the right and wrong, democracy versus capitalism versus socialism, etc. And that carries on for another couple of centuries, let's just say that, right? And then they realize that that works for them, right? We can now have laws. And I'll give you a good example, right? There was a time on this planet, I'm talking 400 or 500 years ago, right, where we had a lot of explorers, genuine explorers, who wanted to go and explore other countries and, went out there and explored the world for whatever it has and learned from it. But then there were people who are not explorers, they were invaders, right? And they've invaded countries because there's resources, natural resources. They just want to bring it back to their own country. That was very nefarious, but they could do it because they had the backing, the military backing, whatever backing of other nations and countries to do this. But why would they do this? Do you know what I mean? You got to ask those questions. Like, they've done it, fine. We understand they've done it because they have the power, right? They've done it. Like, for example, the Spanish, when they went to South America and they killed off all the Aztecs, right? They didn't actually kill them all, right? They killed a few, it scared the shit out of them with their advanced weapons and etc. But they probably killed most of them from a simple, a cough or a flu or a bug, right? Because these people have never experienced these things, right? So accidentally they killed a whole bunch of them as they're gone, right? They've made them vanish. But these people were given the orders, the opportunity, and were given the power by people above them to say, go and do that, right? Because ultimately, this is the fun part, right? When I see people talking about, oh, the Aztecs, like, Spanish went there and got the gold and jewelry and everything. Half of them is under the ocean. They lost half of them in the ocean because pirates were taking it off them. So that's the part they won't talk about, right? So it wasn't that. It was that, let's go there and let's be dominant. Let's take over these things. Oh, anyway, I'm going to cut that story short as well, right? So I'm not going to make it too long. So that's what happens. And then these people, as I said, over time, they've understood that we only have to change one little thing. Now, the things they influence is what's more important. I don't want to go into the religious thing. I don't want to go into the war thing. None of that matters because they are kind of all interconnected, right? It's a freaking loop. Once you understand it, it makes sense. And I don't want to make this video too long. Maybe I'll do another video just on that subject without the crypto, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth, right? So these guys, I believe, currently have the power to manipulate governments, right? So they choose. So we know there's a term we use, right? Governments and politicians are not elected, they are selected, right? I believe that a lot of these governments are put in place, especially in the Western world, right? Because that's where most of the power comes from. They select who they want to put in government, right? They select. I'm going to read these comments as well, guys, so just be patient with me. I will come to this. Let me just take a breather on this particular subject, right? And then when we get to that part where I can actually have a break and then continue, I'll talk about it. So what was I saying? So these guys have realized that they can manipulate certain things, right? And this is, again, a couple of 100 years ago, so it's not that far off, right? And this is way before all of a sudden, like, oh, we've got Newton who's found this or discovered this, or we've got this person discovered. None of that, right? This is all comes into it. So they've realized that we can create organizations and societies where we can have an inclusive membership, right? So there is a particular type of membership. If you become a member, then we're going to give you all of these Nobel Prizes and whatnot, and we're going to make you a superstar, right? So we can start changing history to our liking, right? So history does belong to the victor. That's an evidence, right? So if we can change the narrative and we can end up having rule over you, and we can start creating our own narrative, and we can publish this as an official thing, then over time we can change it, because we only have to change one little thing and we can make this a fact. Like, for example, we know like, oh, this person discovered this, right? For example, no, they haven't discovered this. They've just rediscovered it. But the thing is, the official narrative is give them the helm, give them the crown that they've discovered it. That's not the reality, because that's how they can change the thing. So the shadow government doesn't influence you directly. They do it from far away, but they also do it like sometime in the past. So by the time it comes to you in the future, you think that's what it is, right? So a lot of people say, oh, Darwin discovered evolution. No, he hasn't discovered evolution. It's always been there. How can one man claim the discovery of evolution, right? You know, we get someone talking about, oh, this guy discovered gravity. No, it's always been there. It's way before him. People were talking about gravity. But then guess what they used to do? When these guys used to talk about gravity or planets going around the sun, they used to hang them. They used to hang them. Blasphemy. You do not say stuff like this, because at that time religion was part of it. But when the religion wasn't part of the narrative, then it became a whole different thing. So you see what I mean? There's this acceptance and unacceptance, right? For example, we have a Hubble telescope. That guy, you know, he would have, I think he was hanged or something like something stupid, right? But that's how reality is, because you can only go by what the narrative is. So anyway, these guys at some stage, like, you know, a couple hundred years later, as I said, they figured out how to make money, all right? And money is like currency. Currency means, okay, we've created currency. People will pay with these things, because everybody had their own kind of currency. Every kingdom, every royalty, every lord out there in every part of the world had their own little miniature currencies. And some people will accept it in other countries and some people won't, or other nations or other parts of the world, right? So it happened everywhere. But they figured out that, okay, hold on, why can't we have one universal currency, right? And let's call it gold or call it silver, and let's carry on with this, right? And they started trading. But then they realized that you can't move. And this is the point I'm trying to get to. You can't move tons of gold that you've robbed from another country. You can't move it. So why don't we do this, right? Why don't we put someone in the middle and have them account for it like a bank, right? So the bank didn't exist, but like a bank. And it was, I mean, most official one we know is the Medici family, right? This is not a joke, but this is Medici family, I think in Florence or Italy, I can't remember, during the time of Da Vinci, right? So we're going back 1500 years, right? So, sorry, 500 years back in the 1500s. So you see how time is moving. So you need to understand, these are hundreds of years ago. This is what's happened. So they figured out that we can have a banking system. We can have somebody in between who we trust, who's going to say, yes, we can account for that. We can validate for it, and we can do trade. So this is how it starts. People start trading. People start moving money, right? And gold becomes a currency, but gold never moves. So technically the first ever digital currency, right? Which happened hundreds of years ago. But over time, obviously, as we evolved and as technology evolves, right? New practices are put in place. They're like, well, why do we need gold anymore? Why do we need to account for actual physical money? We can now start accounting for how much money somebody has in their balance, right? And other families obviously turned out. I'm not going to name any. There's no point. There's no, as I said, this video is not going to be in depth. So these guys come along and they say, well, we can do the same thing. And the story goes as if, oh yeah, this family, the Rothschilds or whatever, they were collecting people's gold and they were giving them a receipt. And that's, again, understand, the history belongs to the victor, right? So whoever's won the history can dictate what they want, but that's not the reality. It was hundreds of years ago they were doing it. The Medici family were doing it hundreds of years ago. So they figured this out, and then they realized over time, when technology evolved and when the internet was created, so like, you know, they had the telegram, they had the phone system, the computers were there, because technically they were manually configuring it. Computers were there. And then they realized, okay, we can now create networks and create internet. So they created internet, and we're actually still using the old internet. Internet's been around since the 1950s, right? 1950s. And I'll give you a hint of some coincidences, but it's been around since the 1950s, used internally by the government and by the military. Apparently, again, what they told you, in order to have communication between themselves, and then they open source it for everybody, right? And it's still there. As far as we know, officially, 90% of the whole internet is the dark web, and 10% of it is the clear web, where we go, the Google and all of that, right? So all your browsers have access to the clear web. But the clear web is a gated web. So think about it this way. So the 10% that they have made clear for you, apparently safe for you, is actually, yes, it's navigational. Yes, it's really cool to go and use things very easily, indexed and everything. We love that, right? Google created the indexing anyway, but we love all of that. But the point is that's gated, means that you cannot enter this web space or this ecosystem unless you pay someone. So a gateway fee. So they figured it out. You think they were going to just open source it for nothing? Are you mad? No, that's why they did it. Like the same with the GPS. They made GPS, military purposes, military uses, this is military stuff. They open source it. They, but do you think they did it for free? No, they're going to make money out of it. They didn't create something for nothing. right? Think about that. And if they're giving you the redundant technology, then what kind of technology do they have, right? So obviously, as we're in the technology, let's move into crypto. So banking, like, let's talk about technology. Like 1950s existed, obviously. They had big computer systems, probably doing it manually. I mean, if you look at some of these quantum computers now, pretty much they look like old age. I don't think that's quantum computers. They just look stupid to me. But anyway, I'm not going to get into it. I don't know too much about quantum computers. But the way I look at it is cryptocurrency, I'm sure they figured out, okay, how can we create a digital version of this money? So now we don't need papers, we don't need manual writing, we can now have it on a computer ledger. So I believe that it's existed from somewhere late 50s, right? I strongly believe late 50s. And I'm going to get into who I think probably have been involved in it. But let's get into this question here. So Sabine says, sorry to keep interrupting with the comments. Do you think that the Bitcoin halvening will have a significant impact on DeFi infrastructure? I am a big fan of Yearn Finance and have been since 2020. All right. Okay. So Yearn Finance. Now, what you have to understand with Yearn Finance, my brother, the way the structure works, what Yearn Finance is, right? So Yearn Finance, you go there, you use it in XYZ, and the more people using Yearn Finance, the more valuation Yearn will have. If people start if people stop using Yearn Finance, then it doesn't grow in value, right? The narrative was strong, right, back in 2020, hence why it pumped very much, right? And also the person who was involved in creating it, he is a genius. He's created an algorithm, he open sourced it, and they made a whole shit ton of money. Absolutely. He had a lot of backing from a lot of institutions in order to do that. So in my opinion, my strong opinion, I used to be a Yearn holder at that time. I made my money and I got the hell out, right? The narrative is that at that time, there was a lot of, the institutional backing for this to pump. So we all knew it was going to go and pump to a high level, and it went to about $95,000. If you're buying right now, right, with the hopes that it's actually going to go there again, I don't know what to say. I can't tell you whether it's going to go there or not, right? I can look at a chart and say, well, look, it looks positive, but it's only following the market trend. Right, it doesn't promise anything to go there. Now, what you have to also understand, Yearn Finance today is sitting around 9,000, 9,500, and believe me, I'm not even looking at my chart. I just know this. Right, Yearn Finance is sitting around $9,500, $10,000, probably something like this. Right, to go back to 95,000. Right, that's another almost 90% climb. 90% climb. I see KR here, also my brother. So I see 90%. We're still behind. Do you know what I mean? Now, of course, if the market continues and BTC pumps and the halvening narrative, the narrative you're talking about, it's already priced in, right? The halvening, usually we used to see a Bitcoin pump after the halvening, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, we have to say the pump has already happened, right? So the Bitcoin halvening price is already factored in. Hence why last 5-6 weeks, I've been really, adamant and telling people, guys, stop loss, whatever you do, stop loss, because this is a dangerous time in this crypto space. We've never seen this before. Historically, we've never ever had a pump before the halvening. We've never had one, right? This is the first time in history, Bitcoin's history, that we're doing a pump before the halvening. Normally, as soon as we come close to the halvening, we dump a little bit, bleed out, and then all of a sudden the narrative, we start pumping, and then we continue. We do a bull market, could be 6 months to a year, right? And we start shooting up. This time, we've already done it. We've already created a brand new all-time high. We've never ever done an all-time high before the halvening. So that's already priced in. So that then gets me worried a little bit, says, oh, no, there's a lot of coins out there, right, that haven't pumped. There are coins with 99% below their value. There are coins with 90% below their value, 80% below their value. Yes, it's an opportunity as long as the market continues, but do we want to risk that? No, right? What we're going to do is set up a stop loss and make sure that if things go south, we need to exit out, right? So we have to understand what the market is doing and be a bit logical about it and say, right, okay, fine, we've still got a chance to go and hit that all-time high, but what if BTC hits an all-time high and then decides to go south completely? Complete big black swan event, whatever you want to call it, right? I'm sure they're going to come up with some crazy names, but the point is they're taking profits, nothing else, right? Narrative, hype the market, pump the market, right? And then people who are coming in get more money to come in. As soon as they've had enough, that's it, right? Let's dump it, take the profit, let these guys just bag hold for us, right? Well, we'll come back in the bear market and pick it up again for cheap and roll it, right? Because that's all it is. They want to take your funds, nothing more, right? So let's see what, so that's what it is. And I hope this kind of makes sense, right? So whatever you buy, whatever you hold, just make sure that you understand, what do you call this? Stop loss is very important, right? I'm not saying don't buy, don't hold. Yes, it has a chance to do another 80-90%. Does that make sense, right? But like, make sure you have a stop loss to protect yourself just in case it goes south. Because from now, if the market dumps 50%, well, you're 50% down, whatever you bought. Do you know what I mean? And I hope you made profit, and I hope you keep this profit. That's what I'm saying, nothing else, right? So let's see what RA says. RA says, but some people to practice 100% don't believe in core aspects of who? Oh, so don't. I don't know what you mean by who, my brother. Sorry. I think you're talking about the religion. Listen, as I said, I'm not a 100% religious guy. I don't practice religion all the time, but I have my belief, I have my faith, and you know, I want to be a good person. That's something I want to do, right? Does that make? I don't want to do it for society. I just want to do it for myself, and I get rewarded from that. I feel rewarded from that. I feel good, and I think if it makes me feel good, then there's a positive energy towards it, right? And that's what I give out to people. So end of the day, I'm always honest about it. I won't hide it. I don't go and, like, for example, if I don't fast, right, and I fast sometimes, honestly I do, and when I do fast, I'll say I'm fasting and everyone will be happy for me, right? Because I am fasting. But if I'm not fasting, I'm not dishonest about it. I say, guys, I'm not fasting today, so please don't make anything for me or whatever, and I'll drink a cup of coffee or whatever, just so everybody knows that I'm not fasting, right? So I'm honest about this. I don't do things for the society. I don't give a damn about the society. People can judge me for what they want. I know if I'm being a good person, an honest person, those are my key principles, and I stick to those principles, right? Sabin says, I will just hodl it for another year to see what happens then, since markets peak 1 year post halvening. You can give that a go, but as I said, Sabin, regardless whether we have another year, maybe another 2 years, this bull market could be completely different. We might have a never-ending bull market, right? And we love that, right? We all want to see that. But what I'm saying is, as you progress along, as your price increases for that particular asset, and you're a believer in it, and I love that. I admire people who hodl and believe stuff. Just make sure to protect your funds or your coins. And here's the trick of this, right? If you can have a tighter stop loss, right, as you progress up, so you just have a stop loss, maybe 5%, maybe if you believe strongly, 10% below the market price, whatever the price is, and keep on moving it up, adjusting the balance every single day. So when it does dump, and it dumps to oblivion, right, you can pick up more of that coin for the money you hold. You know what I mean? So you're going to get it for cheaper. So that's all I'm saying. Don't buy and just sit on and say, it's going to come back, it's going to come back. There's too many coins. There's too many projects doing the same thing. And that's what's happening, rinse and repeat. And I was going to get to that, and I'm going to get to that conspiracy part in a bit as well, right? So that's the reality. And I think when I say what I'm going to say, will make sense to you. Hello says, basically DeFi and legacy coins have not performed in comparison to these new coins. Yes, because the narrative is changing, right? And I think if you listen to this next part of what I'm about to say about this shadow government or shadow conspiracy theory, it will make sense to you, right? So there are people out there who, and I'm continuing with the story so you understand, and that will make more sense to you. They've realized that they don't need, so there are people out there who have realized that they don't need to have a physical ledger anymore. They can have a digital ledger. And by opening it out to the world, again, similar like they did with the GPS, similar with the internet, if they open it up to the world, that means banks and institutions coming in and trading and having other funds and manage it through there. They realize that now we can actually open source this, but also monetize this, right? Because we don't need any of this. So they opened it up so banks could now give you a checkbook, right? So you can sign up a check and all of a sudden money's moving, but there's no physical money moving. It's just digital numbers moving over the phone. Literally one bank is calling up another. Yes, mate, today's book balance is $3 million, right? For XYZ account or XYZ total. Can you just minus that off your balance? That's what they're doing. So that's what they were doing, right? Obviously, as internet evolved, things got different, and they're now doing it at a push of a button. But even then, they still use the archaic system as a manual backup. But nowadays, with the data centers that we've got, with the securities that we've got, they're not even bothered about that. They don't even probably hold any manual backups anymore, right? They're not fussed about that. The only manual backup they keep are contract papers, and I'll get to this as well. So remember earlier on, I said how these guys have realized they only need to change one thing, and they are usually people sitting in an office. So these guys realize that we can create a legal system, right? We can create a legal system. And if we can get everybody to agree to that legal system, then by all means, we can now control the narrative. And I'll give you a good example of that, right? I'm in the British Commonwealth, right? So this is a Commonwealth, this is British, like we're in Great Britain, right? Here's a good part about this, right? So the British Commonwealth countries, they've all signed to be part of the Commonwealth. So that way they can get aid and X, Y, Z and this and that. Why? Britain says, if you accept our rule, then we'll support you. If you don't, we're not. So people see some sort of a benefit, they want that, right? Let's talk about another legal thing, right? So Hong Kong belongs in China. It's part of China. It used to be a freaking some boat like dock or whatever, like, you know, where they used to go. There used to be one of those, but Britain owns it, and Britain's leased it back to China because of the legal system. So the only document they want is your personal signature on a piece of paper, so they can then prove that in the court of law or whatever, right? So that's what it is, right? You see what I mean? So that's how this whole system works. It's just pen and paper. Now we know we can bind you by pen and paper because it's a legal system, right? But the law of the land doesn't give a damn about any of those, because the law of the land is more ancient and much more robust and actually much more fair. It's not unfair. So, but I'm not going to go into that as well. But what I'm trying to say is, so they've realized that this thing works. Now we can start messing around with people. And I believe a form of digital currency did exist at that time, right? And they were moving money, and they started issuing debit cards, credit cards, whatnot. So that's what happened. The digital money, when it works, when it's open source, these guys realize how to monetize it, because unless they give it to people, it won't expand. Does that make sense? It won't expand, right? So when they expanded it, now they can take control back, right? By whatever way, licensing it, X, Y, Z, right? Controlling the narrative and the money supply. That's what they're doing. So obviously Satoshi Nakamoto, I believe, you know, an individual or a group, I don't know, but I believe whatever they are, they've realized that, okay, let's create something that is a little bit more secure, right? A little bit more secure. And we will create in such a way where people will mine it and this and that. Because remember what I said, open source, right? So crypto, Bitcoin itself, I think, right? And this is crazy. You've never heard this before. I'll tell you this right now in this video. You've never heard this before. Could have been created by the shadow governments, the shadow people who are pulling strings. Because remember what they did every time. They've proved it every single time. You make it, you distribute it. You make it, you distribute it. You make it, you distribute it. So we come to crypto now. They make it, they distribute it. I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's a feeling I have. You've never heard this theory before. People have talked about the CIA, the FBI, the MI5, the GCHQ, whatever. They've talked about all of those things could be involved in creating cryptocurrency, by all means. But somebody's got to be pulling the strings. And I believe that banking system, or the whole general, the way they've created, whoever was responsible for funding the internet, whoever was responsible for funding the, what do you call this? The GPS system, or funding the banking system, or creating this whole banking ecosystem globally, was the same people who are behind, right? Or at least some parts of it, or maybe have taken over, creating Bitcoin. Now that makes sense, right? So how do you distribute? How do you make it go viral? You distribute it. So they've distributed it, and we've gone ahead and we've worked on it. We've done whatever needs to be done. And what they're doing now is they're coming back in at these high prices. And believe me, they could have owned all of it when it was 0 pence or even 1 pence, but none of us would ever touch it. Think about this. If we knew the government's created Bitcoin and they try to enforce it on us or whatever, we wouldn't touch it, right? The only currency we are touching now is the legal tender that we have in our country. So tomorrow, if they say toilet paper's money, we will accept that, because that's what they can do. By law, they can do that, but they can't introduce a brand new currency, right? So all of a sudden, I think that what they realize is, okay, we don't need to do that. And they're using the same principle that they've done, you know, decades ago, hundreds of years ago. and they've gone in and they've decided to basically say, okay, let's distribute it to people, let them buy it. We've got the money printers, we can buy BTC at whatever price, right? So that's what happened, I believe, right? So they've gone ahead and now they're trying to take control. Now, let me explain trying to take control, right? One of the largest country in the world, right? Largest country in the world is the largest holder of Bitcoin in the world. Many people don't realize that. The largest country in the world one of the largest country in the world is the largest holder of Bitcoin, right? That's USA. And yet they deny it. No. They don't want to tell you, but they are actually the largest holders of Bitcoin on the planet. And then you've got institutions who come along and now buying even more to take more majority of the Bitcoin supply off the market, because they've realized now we've proven ourselves. It's taken us 14 years. Back in the days, it used to take us a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, but we've done it in a less amount of time, right? Because people power works better than institutional power. Well, we've got that. So now all of a sudden, well, let's sell it back to them. Let's take it off them and sell it back to them. So that's how I think the whole thing works, right? Obviously, there's a lot more. I don't want to talk about it, but I think that's how it all started, right? I know it's a freaking crazy theory that I have, and there's more to it, and I'm not going to go there because there are some dates and timelines I've kind of mentioned, but I don't want to do it unless we go into a proper in-depth video. This is not that video, right? This is not that video, right? So that's how I feel it works. Now, these shadow governments, they're everywhere. Now, I also believe that some of the powers that we have, like, for example, people sitting in government, they're selected, right? They're selected for the purpose, but they have a plan given to them. This is what you must do. This is what you must do. And as long as you do what they say, you're safe. The key word here is you're safe. You'll be fine. You do your term, you get out, and you keep your mouth zipped. That's what it is, right? And if you don't, we're going to find a way to get rid of you, right? That's what I'm going to say, nothing more. So this is one of the reasons why some of these guys, when you see them, right, in real life or in TV, you see them, they're not happy. They're miserable. They're freaking miserable gits. Before they get elected, they're all happy, they're all jolly, they're out there, they're promising the world and everything. And then when they're in power, they're freaking miserable gits. Why? Do you think they got a mountain on the shoulder? No. They got, I believe they got bloody weapons facing towards them, right? Like, you do what we tell you to do. If you don't, right, you're going to get done, right? So I believe that's what's happening. And here's the worst part. They probably don't even know who the people are. So when it comes to shadow government and shadow people, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is. It's just a freaking instruction, right? As I said, these people don't need money. They don't need anything. They're just moving the population and the governments and of the world to the direction that they ultimately want to get to. Hence why people say one world government, new world order, whatever, whoever they are, right? That's what it is. So it's a freaking crazy theory. Believe me, I can go on forever. Anyway, I'm not going to say much, right? I'm going to leave it there because these things all branch back to something else as well. I mean, okay, I'm going to get into one or two of these questions because I just noticed something. And if I drop some knowledge bombs here, I'm sure you will make total sense to you, right? So let's do this, right? So let's go back to this. So Hello says Bitcoin is a group effort, not an individual. I've too many done deep dives in this over a long period of time. BTC is a creation to drip feed the sheep and pull the rug later down the line. 100%. That's exactly what I'm saying, right? So I understand the narrative, and now that I understand the narrative, I know how to work with the narrative. So when they're about to pull the rug, I'm going to jump. Do you know what I mean, right? Remember WEF quote, you will own nothing and be happy. The target is next gen kids and not the current. 100%. You smashed it, right? I want to talk about WEF, right? I want to talk about WEF. I see RA says, so obvious they make decisions that don't make sense because they're told to. That's one, but also what you have to understand, remember that minor changes they're doing, the minor changes, right? So what Hello just said there is accurate, right? They are not targeting this generation. This generation are the sheep, right? And we're doing the work for the next generation. They don't need you to know what the reality is or anything, right? Because they're going to change the reality, the history. Remember the victor. They're going to change the history. So the new generation that comes in, maybe the 2 generations from now, they're going to know a whole different history. They're not even going to be aware. They're going to wipe the name. Satoshi is the hero. They're going to completely wipe it. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto, right? How many of you ever Googled Satoshi Nakamoto, right? Because if you haven't Googled it, you have no idea. Can one of you guys sitting here right now on this live stream tell me what Satoshi Nakamoto means in Japanese? Can anybody tell me what Satoshi Nakamoto means in Japanese? Right? I'm gonna give you a second and let's see what happens, right? I'm gonna vape on this because I'm freaking pissed off right now. So I'm not pissed, I'm just hyped. No kids here, past your bedtime, go bed. We're doing adult content here. Okay, RA says one example is ultra low emission zone. They are testing the lines of what they can do. Not entirely. Ultra low emission zone, forget it's a scam, right? Let's just say it's a whole freaking scam. It's got nothing to do with that. However, they are creating boundary lines, and they are going to create these boundary lines where you are only able to travel 15 minutes from your home. And if you travel any further, you've got to tell them why. So they are planning to do this. So they're trying to create these locked societies, right? Gated societies, right? Where if you're in a particular region, you cannot go elsewhere and work. So they're going to try and generate all of this because they've realized that, oh, hold on, you know, we've got people who live in London, for example, go and work 20 miles away, like myself, right? Go 20 miles away, does whatever. So we don't want these guys to go. We want to keep them in the thing. So that way we can control how many people we have, and we can monitor how many people are in those zones. So when we want to drop a nuke, we know exactly who to nuke. You know what I mean, right? Because nukes don't have to be powerful. We don't have to think about nukes. So, you know, population control, whatever, right? But ultimately mental control before going into some other control, right? Clear thinking, quick-witted, wise, right? But let's talk about it. Right, okay. Clear thinking, quick-witted, wise. I think that's what you're saying Satoshi Nakamoto is. If you've gone and searched Google, you would see what it is, but I'll tell you what it means, right? Nakamoto, right? Satoshi Nakamoto, right? Now, I can't confirm all of this, but I'm going to tell you this, right? This is crazy, right? Nakamoto means central. Nakamoto means central. Central. Hello, somebody, central. Satoshi means agency. Central agency? It's in the name. Right? Google's going to censor it. Google's going to censor it. Central agency. Satoshi Nakamoto. Nakamoto Satoshi, right? It's a fucking tongue twister, but that's what it is. Central agency. What the hell's going on here? Right? Central agency. What's going on here? Right? So agency central, doesn't matter how you put it, that's what Satoshi Nakamoto means. When I first realized this, when I first saw this, I freaked out. I was like, what the hell? So obviously my mind went into explosive mode, and I'm like, NSA, you know, FBI, CIA, right? You know, MI5, MI6, GCHQ, right? And all of that nonsense, right? Believe me, I'm thinking Interpol. I'm thinking the global governments are behind this, right? And then I sat down and I said, relax, champ. Hold on. It's none of them. It's none of them. It doesn't have to be any of them. It doesn't have to be any of them. You can connect the dots and say, yeah, they're trying to, you know, find you. They're trying to follow what you're doing. None of that matters. They already know this. None of that matters. This is a new world currency. And this is the beginning of the new world currency. This is not even it. So, of course, things went out of hand, and I will talk about that as well. But when we talk about WEF, like World Economic Forum, WEF, right? Who is the leader? I think his name is something Schwab, right? I forgot what his name. Anyway, something Schwab. But point is who are these people? And what timeline do they come from? So I don't want to say, but I'm telling you without telling you. Does that make sense? What timeline were these people born in? Where do they come from? All right, let me even give you some more hints, right? Right? When was NASA formed? When was FBI formed? When was CIA formed? When was MI5 formed? When was MI6 formed? When was GCHQ formed? And I'm only giving you USA and UK. When were they formed? After what date? Come on, guys. When was the computer formed? After what date? Right? Things start to fall in place. Oh my days. Now, I'll give you a timeline, just as a general timeline. They all happened after World War II. And I'll give you one more clue here so you can go and think. So next time we do a live stream and next time we're doing a deep dive, right, things will freak you out even more, right? Let me give you this. They all happened after World War II, after Operation Paperclip. Now, Operation Paperclip originally talks about 1,500 of these brilliant minds of Germany. Nazi Germany, by the way, not any Germany, Nazi Germany, brilliant minds, scientists who already knew how to send bombs over to different countries, who already knew how to make planes and V2 bombs. In fact, the V2 was the one that took people to the moon, apparently, right? I don't want to say, as I said, but that's the reality, right? So timelines are important because we are missing history, right? Because history has been changed. History is constantly being adapted and changed, evolved, right? Because these people have the power to change one little thing to change everything. Does that make sense? So whatever technology we have now, all I'm going to say, thank the guys before World War II, right? In fact, it started way before that. Way before that. All right, Hello says, I've done deep dives in Ripple, massively shit scary stuff. People don't realize how powerful these people are. Very scary stuff. Some with XLM. Well, XLM, the founder of XLM was an original founder of XRP. He was one of the partners of XRP. So I'm not sure if you know about this, right? They split because how XRP designed their coin, and XLM said, no, we don't want to do it this way. And they had an argument between centralization and decentralization, and then XLM was formed. Right? And I do support XLM more than XRP. So I'm not a big fan of XRP because I can see right through them. I can see what kind of a scam it is, right? I can see what kind of a scam it is. The whole Ripple case was an entire scam. The SEC it was a freaking scam because they needed that scam. Sometimes you need an scapegoat. Sometimes you need the cloud, right? Or smokes, right? So there was a smoke screen. That's all it was, right? They openly are scamming people. They're openly doing things. In fact, some of the biggest institutions and companies out there are right behind these projects. So let me tell you where things changed for crypto. Crypto became kind of uncontrollable, right, with the creation of projects like Ethereum. Ethereum was not created. So Ethereum was created by a brilliant mind. We know there was 5-6 guys who done it. I think there was in total 8 people involved in Ethereum's original creation. And then some of the guys just left and some of the guys just didn't come to the limelight. Other guys split and created other stuff. I'm not arguing about any of that. But what you'll find is Ethereum Foundation, right? Who's funded that? Who's been investing in that? And then what you'll realize is some of the top tech companies in the world had people sitting, right? Microsoft had people sitting in Ethereum Foundation since 2015. And then in 2015, 2016, 2017, you talk about it to Microsoft founder, whatever. Oh, no, this is shitcoin. This is bullshit. No, we don't believe in that stuff. So why do you have a person sitting in that office? Why would you have someone sitting in Ethereum Foundation? Why do you have someone sitting in that office learning from you? Why? Explain to me. You're clearly invested. So why are you saying we're not interested? We don't believe in this stuff. Why? Does that make sense? So this is the kind of stuff I see, the hypocrisy I see, right? Where on the surface, they're doing something. Behind the scenes, they're doing something completely different. And when you ask them, they completely deny it. Because they can. Because they can. And they know that they have the power to censor things. So if things get too out of control, they will censor it. They will cover it up. Google will delete that entire segment, right? And I'm not blaming Google. Of course, I'm streaming through Google right now. But that's the whole thing, right? So Hello says, yes, I know. Yes, that SEC case was required. Absolutely, it was required. It's smoke screens. That's what it was, smoke screens. ETH is another scam, in my opinion, but worth the investment due to the backing. Of course, exactly what I said. So Ethereum to me in 2017, so 2017 bull market, first time a friend of mine came up to me and he says, bro, you should buy some Ethereum. And I remember, I think it was about $7 or $8, and he said, bro, you should buy some Ethereum. And I said, bro, this thing smells like a scam, because I'd done the research and I was like, why do they have people sitting in the foundation? Why is this and that? This has got so many investment from these big tech companies, right, who are all denying it. Why would I invest in this? This looks like a scam, right? A 19-year-old genius. Yeah, great. Yeah. Hold on. What about the other 7 guys that created it? None of their name came up. Why are we only looking at Vitalik Buterin, some guy with some disability? Why? Why is he the genius, right? Why is he on the... No, that's because they wanted him to be the front line. They wanted him to be on the front page. That's what it was. What about the other guys? So clearly there was some drama, hence why the other guys also left as well. So whatever the case is, I'm not going in there. But I looked at that and I said, no, I didn't touch it. I didn't touch Ethereum until I saw the trends and the patterns into 2019. So the first time I ever touched Ethereum was in 2019. right? Because do you know what? Forget the fundamentals, forget who's backing it, forget the scammers, forget all of that. It's going to make me money. I'm going to make money and get the fuck out, full stop, right? That's how I did it, right? So all of them are Solana, right? All of these big projects. Now I want to give you some names here, probably make sense, right? Some of the biggest hedge funds and crypto venture capital funds, right? Some of the biggest, right? In fact, all of them, they are all investing into the same projects. Is that coincidence? Why can't you back something different or something natural, something someone's created? No, they will not touch your projects. If I send them a letter today and a proposal and I say, look, I'm going to give you 99% of this product I'm creating, I think it's going to change the world, it's going to decentralize everybody, it's going to give people back the freedom and do X, Y, Z, whatever, and I create the best paper out there, I get the best, how would I say this? Like write up a best white paper and I give it to them and I say, here guys, this is a brilliant project. It's going to change the world. They won't touch me. They won't touch me. And I was getting to that earlier on as well, because they're all interconnected. They don't just choose who they want to give it to, right? As long as they can control the narrative, then they will invest in you. So if they can control Solana, they will invest in Solana, and Solana's making me money, 203 right now, right? If they can control the narrative in Ethereum, they will do that. If they can control the narrative in BTC, hey, let's do an ETF and let's pump the market, because they can control the narrative, right? London Stock Exchange, the people who work there were not allowed to buy crypto, any form of crypto. Stock Exchange is about to list BTC. What? Now the UK government, crypto friendly apparently, turns around and says, oh yeah, you can actually deploy shares into the stock markets and sell shares in your crypto investment venture. What? But public can't do it, only institutional investors. So you see what's going on? We don't want to come to the shrimps who don't have any money. We don't want to touch them. They're too much work, right? Too much paperwork. We don't need them. Let's go for the big boys now, because now the big boys are interested. Let's go and fish them a little bit. That's what they want to do, right? The real sharks are sitting up there. Do you know what I mean? That's what they're trying to do. So Hello says, just so the audience knows, Vitalik even worked for Ripple. Yes, you see? So not only that, he's worked for many different things, right? But the whole point I'm trying to make here is this is a closed group. And yes, they do add new members as time goes on, and the same people over and over again, they're rinsing and repeating the same thing. I mean, when I see Solana coming and saying Solana, the Ethereum killer, right? Okay, fine, Ethereum killer. What's the narrative? Well, the narrative is they've received $200 million, $300 million in investment. From who? Oh, the same guys that sit in Ethereum's back office. I'm like, so Ethereum knows about that. I'm sure Ethereum's also invested. So why didn't Ethereum do something about it? Where's the fight? Ethereum killers come out? Where's the fight? What's Ethereum doing about it? Nothing. We're just going to continue with our schedule. The EIP this, EIP that. Oh, okay, makes sense. Okay, we're going to do a slow grind. We don't need to. We're all invested anyway. You know? FTX. I'm going to bring that guy. FTX, right? FTX. Who invested in FTX? Coinbase. Interesting. You're going to invest in your competition? Okay. Binance. You're going to invest in your competition? Okay. It's a freaking great thing, right? Many other exchanges. So why are you putting money into your competition? Why are you a large shareholder in your competition? Because you're part of the circle. You see what I mean? You are part of the circle. It's not that, oh, I'm going to buy this coin, it's going to pump to, well, God, I've got coin. There's 3 million other coins out there. There's 3 million other genuine projects out there. Go and buy them. Go and put $1,000. I dare you to go and put $1,000 into a legit project out there who somebody's genuinely trying to do something. You won't. You will, right? Because there's this connection. When the group is involved, they do it together. Let's pump the market, pumpermentals. Let's pump it together. That's what they do. So we, the public, the investors, the people, the real people out there, what we need to do is we need to get out there and say, guys, enough is enough. We understand what the market is. And that's why I say, if you don't understand the market for what it is, you're going to get wrecked. But if you understand the market for what it is, you're now going to milk them. You're going to milk them. It doesn't matter. That's why I said I changed my views. I used to be only BTC. I got to the point when I realized these realities and these things I started observing and I made my own theory. So I'm not going by anyone else's theory. I don't care what other people say. For me, I have my own theory and I believe in my theory. And I'm like, okay, that makes more logical sense to me. And of course, there's a lot more involved. And I said, wow, if that is the case, then I need to kind of step back for a second, see the market for what it is, and make the most of it and get the hell out. That means if BTC tomorrow is not the most dominant coin, I don't give a shit anymore, right? I'll happily drop it, right? If things change, if the dominance change and if the control changes and BTC all of a sudden is not as volatile anymore, becomes stable, and all of a sudden someone comes around and says, actually, it's going to be the new gold standard, which is what they're saying, the gold standard, right? Oh, okay, fine. If that's going to be the gold standard, then it's just a normal currency. Well, if it's a normal currency that institutions want to move money with, what am I going to do with it? If it's not going to be volatile, what am I going to do? Because I like stuff that is alive and kicking, right? You got to be alive and kicking. Like literally someone's trying to drown you, what are you going to do? Or trying to strangle you, what are you going to do? You're going to beat the shit out of them, or you're going to kick them and try and survive. I like that kind of stuff. Does that make sense, right? But when you're going to take that volatility out, because that's what they're planning. They're planning to take control and take the volatility out to the point where people are not involved anymore. To the point where people are not involved. And they can do that because of the inflation system, because they can print money at will. And what I mean by that, a company has XYZ amount of business coming through, right? And this is coming from a business perspective. They have XYZ amount of business. Their company's valued at $10 million, where they can print $10 million out of thin air by asking the bank to give them a loan. All of a sudden, the company hasn't sold anything. Company's worth £10 million. They take 10 million out. Now they can go and buy 10 million, but that's 10 million inflated into the market. Who's going to pay for that? Well, guess what? Tom, Dick and Harry like you and me, right? The worker bees or the worker ants, you're going to pay for it. Through taxation, through inflation, through cost of living, through cost of produce, cost of everything, right? Fuel cost, this cost, that cost. That's how we're going to pay for this. They realize, they're like, okay, that works. That works. We make money. So I know it's a freaking crazy YouTube video today. But I really wanted to talk about it, and it does boil my energy, like boil my blood a little bit when I start talking about it. I can go, as I said, I can go into a deep dive with this, right? And there's more involved, right? And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm trying to tell you or pass an information that I believe, and it's taboo, right? Because again, the history is being changed, right? So now if I talk about history, things get confusing. I'll give you another reference point as well, maybe a little bit of homework, right? So you guys could go and do a little bit of research on this, right? Go and do a little bit of research on Dutch East India Company, which currently, in current day and age, people know as the East India Company or the VOC, right? But it started off as the Dutch East India Company. Go and understand how they did it, what they did, and what they've achieved. In fact, if they still exist, right? The Dutch, so the East India Company does still exist, but in the shadows. But let's just say this, right? If they were officially tracked, they would own as much as 99.9% of the planet owns right now. They would be worth more than every single company on the planet alone. That's how rich that company would be. So just think about that, keep that into perspective, and understand that who these guys are and do they really need money. That's all I'm going to say. You know, a little bit of research and you'll find the exact date that it was formed and exactly what their mission was. You'll find out, right? That's what I'm going to say, right? A lot of people thought they vanished during the Boston Tea Party and it all broke apart and it didn't work. Nah, it's all part of the plan. Martial law is coming to UK, guys. Aren't we already in martial law? You know what I mean? I think we are. We are definitely already in martial law, in my opinion, because of how the systems work. You know, you're monitored, you're tracked everywhere, right? You're everywhere. We are currently living in a society where we say Big Brother is watching us, right? I mean, 1984 is a book called 1984 by George Orwell. He's definitely seen something. He's definitely seen something. He's definitely understood something. And he wrote about it during the particular timeline I'm talking about. Is that a coincidence? No. Because a lot of people have read the book. I've read the book. I've heard the audio book over and over again. And we understand that this is a visionary writer who's writing about a potential future, but the timeline doesn't work with me. When I look at the timeline and the history they're giving, and this is what he did and this is the reality. No, the timeline doesn't work with me. It's impossible for this person to start thinking like this about a future unless he's actually seen something. You know what I mean? So there has to be something. There's got to be some sort of involvement, right? I mean, people like Gene Roddenberry, all right, people who wrote Star Trek and this and that. Yes, they're imagining fictional stuff, and which we are becoming reality now. But this guy, George Orwell, when he wrote 1984, right? I don't think he wrote it from imagination. I think he wrote it from some knowledge that he had. And if that's the case, then we've already been in Big Brother for a very long time. You know, they had like, you know, back in the days, back in the 80s, 90s, I think they got rid of the Berlin Wall, right? Fine. But I think we've already been walled. We've been walled by society, by documentation, by identification, right? For example, in the UK, let me give you a good one. You can drive a car with your provisional license, learner's license, fine. You can also drive a car with your normal license, fine. But you can't drive a car without paying road tax. But that's not a problem right now because there are some cars that are exempt. But here's the fun part. You can't drive a car without a valid MOT. Sorry. Isn't that a way of locking you into the system? So it doesn't matter what kind of a car you drive. You might even be flying a spaceship. You cannot drive without an MOT. That invalidates everything. Your insurance, everything is invalidated. So think about that. Freaking crazy, right? So we are already blocked in society. You can't work without national insurance number. Why can't I just go and work? No, I can't. You can't work without national insurance. You got to pay your national insurance. And then the taxation, there's a whole different system out there that you pay a certain level of tax above a certain amount, up to a certain amount. Then when you go above that threshold, so you're the middle class pays 40% tax, but then you're in the upper class and you pay 45% tax, and you got to, it's like, hold on. The guy on the bottom, he's not earning enough anyway. He doesn't really have to pay much. Guy on the top pays only 5% more than the middle class. How does that work out? The taxation system is designed to keep the middle class in the middle. Doesn't matter what happens, you're designed to stay in the middle. A whole different, I'm not a tax advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm not going to have any of those, right? So Gene Roddenberry was given Star Trek, in my opinion, not imagined. Outside forces, fair play. I don't have a problem with that. There are people out there who have talked about visions given to them, or ideas given to them, or thoughts given to them. Lucid dreaming, for example. You receive information and you go ahead and you talk about this information, which is fine, right? I don't disagree with that. I agree with that. But what I'm trying to say is they imagine the future, the timeline, the way the timeline works. And this is the most key here, what I'm trying to say, right? Gene Roddenberry didn't think about year 2000 or 1984. That's what I'm trying to say. So the whole thing, I'll put it into perspective. Gene Roddenberry is thinking about year 2100, year 2200. By all means, that is something we could have. That future could exist for us, right? And they didn't write it during the time this guy wrote it. But this guy, in 1942, was it 42 or 48? I think it was 1948, wrote about 1984. It's all, it's like codes. Like a lot of people look at Da Vinci's Code. Guys, we need somebody to go and start looking at 1980 George Orwell's code. I think he had some codes in there. It's just, the numbers just don't make sense. You know? He's talking about a Big Brother society before most people have talked about it. But I think it's existed from that time. I think there's a lot more going on. You know, let's just put it this way. I'm not going to carry on forever, but let's just put it this way. I believe strongly that the so I'm not going to say like there's no, I'm not having a go at people, and I don't have anything against any people, especially like people from different countries, different culture, different religion. I don't have a problem with you guys, and I don't judge people for whatever one or two individuals done, right? Let me just put it this way. I believe the entire Third Reich didn't just vanish off the face of the earth. I think they're still here. They're just operating under different alphabet or alphabet soups, let's just call it, right? And that's what's happening right now. The World War II, nothing happened, you know. Things had to happen, and things happened exactly as they were meant to happen in order to take eyes off or create a diversion. That's all I'm going to say, nothing else, right? And I think this is one of the reasons why there's this massive war between East and West. Originally started as the Cold War. Whatever the stories are, don't want to know, but I think it's still going on. I think there's resources that were intended to be taken by one party or moved over, just didn't happen. That's all I'm going to say. Hello says World War II is a scam. They all are. All wars are scams, right? During the wars, there are people, as I said earlier on, the shadow government. They're the guys who are creating these things. They don't fight them. They just create these things because that's how they take control. And sometimes they're just smoke screens, nothing else, right? Sometimes you need to have some sort of a big diversion in order for something else to happen, right? There's a whole theory out there. There's plenty of theories out there. So I'm not going to go into all of those, right, obviously. But yeah, I mean, that's all I want to say. Listen, I'm not going to make this video any longer. It's already been 1 hour. I do appreciate you guys coming to the chat. Hello, I do appreciate you, my brother. I think your brother. I do appreciate you coming here and actually contributing to the comments and the chats. It is freaking awesome to actually find someone who's like-minded, who actually understands what I'm pretty much thinking. I think you actually are clued on, but I'm not saying everything, because sometimes with YouTube videos and this and that, I've had it before. In fact, I used to have a channel before, and I'll show you a screenshot if you're on Discord. I cannot even watch YouTube videos from that channel. They literally blocked me. I had to fight with them. It took about 6 months. Then they actually gave me the email back. So Google gave me my email address back, but my channel and every other thing to do with that has been taken off me. That's how much they censored me the last time I spoke about in 2017, right? What's happening? RA says, trying to blame Ukraine war for higher gas and energy prices. None of that business, guys. Let's just put it this way, right? You got this East and West situation right now, right? Let's put this into perspective, and that will kind of make sense, right? Who are the biggest oil producing countries in the world, or gas producing countries in the world? Just think about it. Who are the biggest gas and oil producing countries in the world? The East, right? The East produces more gas and oil than anybody else, right? West doesn't produce as much, right? And West has to rely on buying from the East. Well, if we need to now go and take those resources, what do we need to do? Think about it, right? So you need to have a problem, then you can react to it, then of course you'll have the solution. So, you know, like, let's put it this way, right? Let's put it this way. Military vehicles in this current day and age, right? Maybe in the future, during Star Trek age, like 2100, we're going to have something different. But right now, military vehicles don't rely on EV cars or EV vehicles. They will not function with EV. They need gas, oil, and XYZ, right? That's what they need. So these are resources that they want. And these are just, by the way, these are stupid, useless reasons. We don't need military. We don't need war. We don't need anything. There would be absolute peace on this planet if a few people at the top, shadow governments, right, or whatever you want to call them, at the top, just let it be and just said, you know what? We don't need to bother about the oil, gas, and this and that. Then guess what? We would have technology advance so much. I mean, think about it. What was the latest thing they discovered after electricity? Somebody tell me? Anybody? No. Fuck all. Fuck all. All of a sudden, oh, we discovered electricity. Oh, this thing, you know, you are freaking operating in electricity, mate, you stupid fool, right? Whoever created electricity, whoever's claimed the Nobel Prize for it. You are literally a walking, talking energy generator. Are you stupid? Oh no, it took them 100 years to figure that one out. Oh, we create piezoelectric. We don't function without it. Do you not understand that? You know what I mean? Right? But that's the kind of stupidity that I see. because some people want to create some narrative, and ultimately it's total domination, right? That's what it is, right? And they have been doing loads of different tests. There was this paper out there talking about dividing the world into four, and eventually if they divide it into four, then they can govern it with one party, or New World Order, whatever. There's so many different ideas out there. I'm not going to go into those because there's far too many. I can only talk about theories that I have. Ultimately, yes, it's all about the one world government or order. There has been experiments, and I think Europe was one of the biggest experiments, especially the euro dollar, right? A lot of people don't realize the euro is a euro dollar. Originally, I think it was $800,000 or something was given as the fund to produce the original euro dollar, and it started off there. Now it's for that $800,000 investment that they made, or something stupid. I can't remember what it was, something to do with 8, but that's now grown into billions of dollars for them. So again, it was a way for them to generate this thing. So they actually they put dollars to back up the euro dollar, and then the euro dollar kind of split off and it became his own thing, right? That's all openly there. People don't see it. It was openly there. And what happened? You realize countries, their currencies were collapsing. Okay, you have a solution. You can take euro, but then the countries are like, but hold on, euro's too expensive. You know, my currency, I get like 1,000 of my currency for €1. Well, that's what it is. That's what you're going to pay. But if I take all of that euro from you, then I got to owe you that. Yeah, you owe me debt for another 100 years now, mate. Do you want to survive? Do you want me to give you the loan? So if you want me to give you the loan, you take the loan, get rid of your currency. Now you owe me a debt for another 100 years. Sign that paper. That's how they do the game. That's how the game works. Again, I don't want to go too deep into it because, as I said, last time I remember, they shut me down completely. And I'll bet you any money this is going to be flagged up and they'll probably shut me down again, right? You saw what happened to David Icke. Let's put it this way, right? So if you guys don't want to see any crypto stuff, I don't think it's going to be wise for us to continue in this conversation, but that's what it is, right? So, you know, and I don't, as I said, I feel sorry. And this is genuinely coming from the heart. I feel sorry for the people of nations and countries, you know, how they are suffering for the greed of a very few. The greed of very few, right? We as human beings, you know, we might think we're the most intelligent. We're not. We're not the most intelligent if we do not let ourselves progress. And the only way we can progress, and for example, decentralization. Why do we even need crypto? We don't actually need crypto. In fact, here's the fun part. I'm going to give you this, right? This is crazy. We don't need multiple currencies around the globe. We don't need crypto. We don't need anything. We can have one currency. We can literally have one currency to rule over all of them and trade that freely. But here's the fun part. That doesn't work because the shadow government doesn't want that. The shadow government doesn't want that. They want $1 here to be worth $10 elsewhere, and $10 elsewhere to be worth $100 elsewhere. They want that. They want that separation because that's what creates problems. That's how you control the narrative. Because I would happily accept a one world currency. I would say, brilliant. But it doesn't work. Right? Because the one world government or one world order or the shadow government, that's not what they want. They thrive on problems. They want problems. So it's not about a solution. It's about creating a problem because that's how we benefit. What they get out of it, I don't know. Maybe energy. Maybe they drink the energy they get out of it. Like maybe they love negative vibrations. Maybe that's what feeds their souls. I don't know. You know, it's weird. It could be anything, but I don't know. But it's just weird things like, I would happily accept $1 because I know if I'm going on holiday, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to China, I'm going to Japan, I'm going to USA. Well, if I've got $100, it's still $100. Do you know what I mean? Brilliant, guys. We would have free travel again. Like back in the ancient times when, you know, the Romans went around or when the Chinese went around looking and exploring around the world, right? They had gold coins and gold currency, and they would go to people with their currency, with their Chinese currency or their Japanese currency or with their, you know, Roman currency. And say, here's a coin, gold coin. And so this is good, right? It's gold. We accept it. Think about that. It was a free world. People were able to travel wherever they want. We didn't have overpopulation, none of that business. It was a free world. Everyone was free to go wherever they want. There were no borders, right? So when we talk about a martial law, we are in a martial law. We've been in a martial law for a very long time. The time they create passports, you cannot enter without a passport. When they created differences in currencies, we've been in it for hundreds of years, if not thousands. That's how they created it. So you see that small little change that they did created all of this. Because before that, men, women were able to travel to any parts of the world as they wished freely. Of course, they had their homes, they went for a holiday, maybe to visit, but nobody ever went anywhere to just go and settle. It was a free world. That's the thing that they've taken off us. And now to control it, they need chaos. And chaos is what they do. We don't need electric. We don't, well, of course we need electric, but let's just put it this way. We don't need gas. We don't need coal. We don't need none of that business, right? We have enough energy, and there are enough people out there who know how to create these things. And I know we've got someone in our group who know how to create these energy. So the inputs, right? This is what he explained to me. The current energy is inefficient. The current burn of energy is inefficient, and they do it on purpose because that's how they're going to burn through what they have and show that they don't have enough reserves. They probably have 100, 200 years worth of reserves sitting somewhere in an underground, whatever, mountain or whatever. I'm not going to go down there, right? They have plenty of reserve. It's all about power, dominance, and control, right? They don't need fuel. Believe me, they don't need that. And the fuel, the electricity they're producing is inefficient. Right. Here's a good example. That you can put a very small amount of energy in and receive 100, if not 1,000 times more with these energy machines. Right. And I saw a video of someone I know. So I'm not even talking about some YouTube video, could be fake. No, I'm talking about a real person that I know, that I've physically met. Right. Showed me a video and I was freaking out. Like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah. Nothing is made from nothing, but you have to input energy, and if you input a very small energy, you receive massive amounts. I was like, wow. You know what I mean? I was like, wow. Makes total sense to me. That already exists. In fact, that means that we only need 1% input to receive 100% out, like 99% output. And the amount of resources we have, we won't even be able to just as we have, we won't be able to burn that out and use that for another 100 years, 1,000 years, maybe. We don't even need new resources. We don't need to mine those. But who does? The people on the top, they do. That's the reality. So again, I know a lot of you guys may be thinking, this guy's lost his balls, this guy's lost his mind, right? I haven't, guys. I have so much inside me that, as I said, I could sit there and I can talk to you for hours, right? In fact, I did want to make a video about talking about my theories about Bitcoin, and I think I kind of hinted a little bit here, right? There are other stuff that people talk to me, and I'll happily talk about it, but unfortunately, some of these platforms, they will censor you, they will completely ban you, right? For good, right? And it's a reality that happens, because when you pick on certain subjects, there are people who don't like it. People make a thing about it. They will come and say, oh, he's a woke, right? Or this person's woke or acts woke. What's woke? Someone just wake up? Do you know what I mean? Wake up? Yeah, wake. I'm awake. I'm fully awake. I can see for what it is. I can see everything for what it is, right? And I accept it, and I'm like, okay, fine. There's nothing I could do about it. I do not have the power to change it. So at least I accept it. And I think that the global powers out there, whoever they are, they should also realize this, that, hold on, stop controlling people and let there be free people, and everyone's fine. You know, I think we're all going to be fine, right? He says, hello says, that's why Elon is a puppet. Everyone is a puppet. You want to make it, you got to be a puppet. All right, let's just put it this way. Goblet. Let's think about it this way. There's a goblet of life, all right, or a chalice, right? And you drink from that, you get invigorated, and you have loads of wealth and everything come to you. You join the party. Once you drink from that, that's it. You ain't going back, because the only way you're going back is in a coffin. So Elon Musk being a puppet, yes, he's not a self-made man as people think. He's only there because he was allowed to be there. He's part of the same group. Does that make sense, right? But again, I don't have it. I love him to bits, right? I think he's funny, he's hilarious, right? As a person. But the reality is there's always someone above there. There are always someone pulling the strings. There is always someone pulling the strings, right? In fact, look at me. I'm talking about this. Someone pulled my string today earlier on. One of my group members in Discord turned around and says, can you talk about the shadow governments and all these shadow banking and this and that? They control the banks and everything. They pulled my string. Think about it, right? But anyway, I don't want to go in there. But the point is there's a lot. And there are people out there who, like people like us, right? Normal people like us, right? Who are completely ignorant, who don't want to understand. And those people who do understand, they react, they overreact. Guys, don't react. Don't react, right? Hello, I like you, right? You know what I'm talking about. And I can see you're not reacting. That's what we need to do. We don't react. What are you going to do? Oh, break out. We're going to go and break shops and fire. No. We do not have to be violent, or we do not have to be angry. It's fine. We know what it is. The moment we realize the truth and we understand what it is, we're in control. I talk about this. Control. If you can control the narrative, if you have full control over your emotions and everything that you see surrounding you, every action you take, you have full control. You're the boss. Who's going to control you? Nobody. Are you awoke? Yes, I'm more than awoke now. I'm over the moon. I'm on top of the mountain. I'm the boss, right? Because I am controlling what I see and what I hear and how I feel about it, right? I'm in control. If I feel BTC is created by all of these shadow governments to try and create now, I'm in control because I see it now. I'm in control. I'm in control, right? If I know YouTube, Google, whatever is going to go and, for example, demonetize me, block me. And by the way, my channel is not monetized, guys. Please understand this, right? So that's why you can't even tip me or anything like this. It's completely switched off. I don't want to take anything off anybody. I know I've had some people come up to me and says, oh, can we even tip you like coffee money? I'll probably create one of those buy me a coffee links or whatever. If you guys want, I'll put it down in the description below or something like this in the future. But right now, can't be interested. I do like coffee, by the way. So you're welcome to buy me a coffee if you want, right? But I'll put a link sometime in the future. Not now, I can't be bothered. But the channel's not monetized, right? So they'll demonetize you if they can't do that, because they can't do that to me. So what they're going to do, they're going to try and censor me completely, block me out, right? Like they did to David Icke, you know what I mean? So they're going to do similar kind of stuff. And that guy, brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. If you go and see some of his old stuff, you'll understand. He's been banging on about a lot of stuff, right, that I kind of agree with. There are a few stuff I do agree with for a very, very long time. And now people are realizing, yes, it's true, right? UFOs, aliens, whatever. He's been talking about it for a very long time. There's a society, as a society, we are being raised, or we are being taught to forget. So, freaking crazy, right? We are actually being programmed to forget, all right? I know it's freaking crazy, but that's the reality. We are being made to forget. And unfortunately, more and more, as the day progresses, more and more people are forgetting. They're forgetting their past. They're forgetting what the reality is. They're completely clueless. For example, if they want to know what's happening today, the first thing they do is they switch on the news and they go and listen to the news, and they believe the news anchor. The news anchor is their what do you call this? What would you call this? Sorry, I'm just feeling a little bit thirsty. News anchor is like what do you call them? It's not coming to me right now. Someone they look up to. They trust that person. That person's the celebrity. They're like, that's the person we're going to listen to. That's the person that basically is going to make a difference to our life, right? That's the person that's coming out here and telling us the truth. No, they're reading from a script, guys. They're reading from a script. In fact, I don't have a script. Ask me anything. I don't have a script. This is all coming from my mind, from my heart, what I've learned, things I've experienced, things I've seen, views I've had, and I've kind of made my own views on it. I said, right, I'm not going to take the narrative that's given to me. If Google's publishing a particular paper, well, Google had a choice, publish or not publish. If Google's published it, why publish it? So now, fine, okay, there may be some truth in there. Let me see that and let me assess the situation and make my own views about it. But I'm not going to read out what Google says. Does that make sense, right? So that's what I'm doing. So listen, all of them are puppets and all of them have joined. They're part of the group. And sometimes, as I said, they don't know who's controlling them, because that's not how it works, right? Imagine a pyramid, right? And there's only one person on top of the pyramid. Now imagine under the pyramid, there's two person, like a pyramid scheme, right? There's two person, right? But the two person, they both know who the person on top is, but they don't know each other. And the same pattern follows along. So now they each know who the person on top of them is, but they don't know who they are. And if you continue with that, you have this whole massive pyramid with thousands of people who only know one level up. They don't know who the other person is, or who the other people are who's running what. Left hand doesn't know what the right hand knows. So that's all I'm saying, basically, guys. And I think that's how they've managed to control this. And here's a good evidence, right? There's a good document on the Manhattan Project. If you read about it, it's brilliant. The people who built the atom bomb, there's only a handful of people who actually knew what was going on. The rest of them had no idea what they were building. How hilarious is that, right? It's hilarious and it's freaky as well. But that just proves that that method works, right? And there are, of course, many other projects and many other things that we can, as declassified, so we can read about them. But even then, we have to take it with a pinch of salt, right? I talk about all the time. Some people come up to me and talk about, oh, Area 51 has aliens in there, Roswell incidents. I'm like, no. You're talking about Area 51. What about Area 1 to 50? Do you know what I mean? Or what about 52 to God knows what? How many of those do you know about? Do you think that now that you know about Area 51, that they're going to basically just vanish? Or now they're just showing off to you. They're pissing about. They're literally pissing with you. They're like, okay, if all the diversions there, give it some more fire, give it some more fuel. Let's spark it up a little bit more. Let's continue with this. While we divert them with the smoke screen, and we can do whatever we want in Area 52 or maybe Area 1 to 50. Does that make sense, right? And there are some guys out there, some really good guys out there who have talked about the fact that what I'm just saying here, that Area 51 has now become a diversion, because there are other areas that no one's even looking at. Alien technology, do we have them? Yes, I 100%. I believe alien technology exists, not just 100 years ago, longer than that, thousands of years ago. I think we have alien tech, right? People have discovered them, they've dug them up, right? Archaeologists have dug them up. They're only showing you the buildings that they want you to see, but the technology, they're holding it, right? That's what they're doing. And all the UFOs and whatnot we see these days are basically a human creation or replicas of what the other things are. And as we evolve over time, the technology is also evolving. And some of these UFO crashes and this and that, I believe is man-made, right? And unfortunately, they haven't mastered how to fly these things. That's the reason why they crash. That's what I believe, right? But are aliens here? Yes, absolutely. Do we have space technology? Yes, we do. Do we have futuristic technology? Yes, we do. We've had it forever. But we are people of a society with lost knowledge, and a people of society with complete brainwashed, right, or forgotten knowledge, right? We don't know. We have lost part of our history. People who know that part of the history or have the control over that part of the history have changed the entire history for us. So whatever we see now, or we believe now, or we read about now, it's what's been given to us, right? Through various means, as I spoke about earlier on in the video, through religious, through democracy, through politics, through society, through all sorts of other stuff that's been passed down to us. That's all I'm going to say, right? Because once you master it, you take control and you have full power over everything. We need to take control of what we see, how we see it, and what we do about it, right? We don't have to go mental and crazy. As long as we understand the reality, we can make all the difference to our lives, most importantly. Like the other day, someone was talking about, oh, what if the dollar collapses and all the money collapses? What are you going to do? Oh, we're going to buy gold bullions. Do you have enough money to go and buy as many gold bullions right now? Okay, you're rich, you're wealthy, you bought a ton of gold, fair play, right? Which you won't be able to. But anyway, you bought a ton of gold. You go to the shop and you want to buy a loaf of bread. So what do you pay with? Oh, I'll pay with a bullion bar. Fine. But does the guy have the change for you? Because if he doesn't, you're paying him a bullion bar. How many bullion bars are you going to pay? And how many days are you going to feed yourself? Right? So if you're thinking about money collapsing and the whole society going back to the Stone Ages, what's the first thing you should be thinking about? Not money, not gold coins, not silver coins, not Bitcoin, not crypto. Think about buying a piece of land, because then you can feed your family. That's the key. This is the kind of thought process you need to have. If you don't have that, it doesn't work. But other than that, guys, it's been 1 hour, 28 minutes. I really appreciate all of you guys coming over. It's been an absolute pleasure having you all here. I'm gonna just stop the stream. It's been, as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming. If you have watched me to the end, I do appreciate this. Of course, let me catch up on another time and we'll do another big one. But yeah, right now I am thirsty. And yeah, a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions come up, and I need to control myself. That's what it is. So I'm now I'm gonna try and control my emotions. But as I said, if you have watched it to the end, guys, I do appreciate that. Please do hit that like button so other people could find these videos. If you are watching it later on, and if you do manage to watch it for another 1.5 hours, right, then please do leave something in the comment that you have watched it to the end. I do appreciate that. And let's grow this community, grow this channel, and of course I could bring you some more of this stuff. This was not alpha, right? Believe me, I have alpha, but this is just beta. Let's just say that. Let's see where it goes. I see Mr. Badass here. Also, my brother, you've been hiding there all the time. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you coming. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and I love the fact that you hello, I do appreciate that, as I said, and all the guys that have come on the comments. Sometimes when we're like, as a creator, as a YouTuber, or someone who just comes and does these kind of YouTube, like today we're doing YouTube, Twitch and Facebook all together, by the way, so we've been streaming on all 3 platforms. Someone like me who comes along and does this, sometimes there are things I want to talk about. Of course, if it's scripted, then I know exactly what to talk about, but I'm not scripted. I never do that, right? So I'll come on and I'll talk about something, but then when you guys from the audience come along and give me comments or questions and this and that, it adds a different dimension to the stream as well, right? And it like helps me kind of, or you're kind of feeding the stream, if that makes sense, right? So that's what happens. So I do appreciate all of you guys coming in, and I do hope to see you guys more and more on these live streams. And yeah, other than that, smash that like button, hit that subscribe. Let me catch you on another one very soon. Okay, thank you guys. Adios.